On a quiet evening, the Gabby family came to the school stadium to enjoy a football game. But in the middle of the game, the adults suddenly noticed that Gabby was no longer with them. They immediately began searching, and soon this search developed into a complete investigation with the police. This investigation soon led to unexpected and shocking discoveries that amazed the entire community. Gabby Dolan was born on the 26th of December 2007 in the small town of Scottsville, Kentucky. This town, with a population of slightly more than 4,000 people, was known for its agriculture, and most residents knew each other at least indirectly. In Scottsville, entertainment opportunities were limited, and many found pleasure in school sporting events. The school grounds where football, baseball, and tennis games regularly took place had become a traditional meeting place for many families, including Gabby's family. She had 2 brothers. The older one played on the school football team and the younger one was interested in other sports. In November 2015, the city was looking forward to the main football game of the year, where the best players from the school teams were to compete against a team from another district. Although Gabby was not particularly interested in the game itself, she enjoyed the time and playing with other children during the match. On that spring evening of the 14th of November, when the family decided to attend a school event, it was originally planned to leave Gabby at home. But she convinced her parents to take her along. Not only locals came to the stadium, but also many guests from neighboring districts. When they arrived, Gabby spotted her friends and asked her mother for permission to join them. The mother agreed, on the condition that Gabby not leave the school grounds and always remain in sight. The mother went to the stands while Gabby hurried to her friends. Throughout the evening, she returned to her mother several times and then went back to her friends. During one of her visits, she entered the room where her father was working with the loudspeaker and asked for money for snacks. After receiving the money, she ran quickly to the kiosk. After some time, Gabby's girlfriends approached her mother in the stands. Their worried faces alarmed the woman as Gabby was not among them. They told her that they were playing hide and seek and Gabby was supposed to find them. They had hidden, and Gabby disappeared. They began searching, but Gabby was nowhere to be found, either at the stadium or nearby. Assuming that she might have come to her mother, the girls went to the stands, but she was not to be found there either. The mother immediately recognized the seriousness of the situation and turned to her husband. The father began searching the stadium while the mother went to the kiosk where Gabby wanted to buy snacks. Gabby's parents began asking acquaintances if they had seen the girl, and soon other adults joined the search. The search continued until it became clear that Gabby needed to be searched for more thoroughly. When the parents could not find Gabby near the stadium, they decided to use the loudspeaker system so she could hear their voices and return. But this also did not bring the hoped-for result. During the break in the game, when spectators returned to their seats, the parents began questioning acquaintances about whether they had seen the girl, and some joined the search. They searched the stadium surroundings again and asked the staff to turn on the lighting along the path that led into the small forest. Despite all efforts, Gabby was not found. About 20 minutes after her disappearance, the parents decided to ask the police for help. The officers came quickly to the scene, listened to the parents and friends of the girl, and began the search. In the small town where such incidents were rare, the local police did not have much experience in solving such cases. Nevertheless, they considered a grim scenario in which someone might have behaved inappropriately, making it impossible to find the girl. Realizing that the perpetrator might be among the spectators and intended to leave with the end of the game, the police decided to stop the game and not allow anyone to leave the stadium. They monitored every exit to ensure that no one could leave unnoticed. The police decided not to reveal the reason for stopping the game among those present, so as not to cause panic and disrupt the search. Had the spectators learned that the reason for the stop was the presence of a possible disturber among them, this would have caused chaos and complicated the situation. After arriving at the school, the state police began thoroughly examining the adjacent area. They reached the baseball field and continued their way into the adjacent forest. After walking through the trees, they discovered a small stream where important clues were found. It was clear that something significant had been found, and an ambulance was called so that experts could collect the clues for further investigation. An external inspection gave the investigators insight into what had happened, especially given unusual signs on the neck and missing clothing items, which made the police thoughtful. When Gabby's mother saw the ambulance at the edge of the forest, she thought her daughter had been found and needed help. She ran there, but was stopped by the police so that she would not be confronted with a difficult situation. Given the severity of the situation, the police decided to evacuate everyone present at the stadium to the school gymnasium. This was done to speed up the process of finding out who might be involved in the incident, as it was assumed that the perpetrator might be among them. The investigators spoke with Gabby's parents, informed them about the presumed circumstances of the incident, and asked if they had noticed anything unusual or suspicious recently. However, the parents were certain that they could not help, as they had not noticed anything suspicious. Investigators decided to speak with Gabby's friends to find out whether they had noticed anything unusual that evening. They also asked whether it was possible that someone had been watching her, but the girls said that they had not seen anything suspicious. A meeting was organized in the gymnasium where Gabby's friends were to check all those present and try to remember important details. However, this led to no results. Nevertheless, the lead investigator was convinced that the girls might have noticed someone suspicious, but possibly did not want to talk about it out of fear or did not recognize the importance of their observations due to their young age. He insisted that they remember every detail of that evening. Finally, one of the friends remembered that when they were hiding from Gabby in the toilet near the entrance, she saw a man. She could only remember one detail of his appearance, a denim jacket. Later, in conversation with the cashier who sold tickets for the event, it turned out that he had also noticed a man in a denim jacket who seemed strange to him. Unfortunately, his identity could not be established so far. During the thorough questioning of the game's spectators, the police explained to them the reasons for their detention for a conversation. Being aware that possibly a person connected with the unpleasant incident was present in the room, the visitors felt concerned, but continued their cooperation and answered the officers' questions. At the same time, the officers compared the list of men who were present at the game with a database of persons who had behaved inappropriately before, but no matches were found. Additionally, the officers checked the addresses of several such persons within a radius of several kilometers, but all had convincing alibis and were not near the school. Meanwhile, during further conversations in the school building, the police learned from several witnesses about the unusual behavior of a local resident named Timothy Madden, who was seen near the women's toilet during the game. Many knew him as an ordinary spectator, but that evening his behavior seemed unusual. Witnesses claimed Timothy wore a denim jacket, similar to the one that a friend of an acquaintance of Gabby had seen at the same place. A distant relative of Timothy shared that despite his younger son's participation in the game, Timothy seemed distracted this time and showed no interest in the events on the playing field, which was untypical for him. Other witnesses also noticed his unusual behavior, which prompted the investigators to make contact with him. When night fell, the officers were forced to release most of those detained in the school building. At the beginning of the investigation, the investigators sought out the local sheriff to learn his opinion about Timothy, who claimed to have known him all his life and not to be involved in an unpleasant incident. Timothy had only minor traffic violations in his past and was never involved in suspicious activities. He lived with his wife and 5 children. The police immediately made their way to him to speak with him personally. As soon as Timothy opened the door, the officers asked him whether he knew the reason for their visit. The man answered that he had heard about the incident, but was sure that he had nothing to do with it. Then the investigators decided to test his reaction by mentioning that they supposedly had a video showing Timothy speaking with Gabby on the eve of the incident, although such a video actually did not exist. Initially, Timothy said that he knew nothing about such videos, but then quickly added that he had indeed met Gabby at the stadium that evening and spoken with her. This confession prompted the investigators to pay special attention to him and examine his statements more closely in the context of other collected data. Timothy remembered that during a walk near the stadium, he met Gabby. The girl was looking for her friends who were playing a searching game. According to Timothy, he pointed her in the direction the other children had run and she ran after them. The investigators found it suspicious how quickly the man changed his statements. His story claimed that he had seen Gabby for only a few minutes before she disappeared, and at that time, there were no other witnesses nearby. This gave Timothy the opportunity to act dishonestly. The investigators also asked him how he could explain his DNA at the scene of the incident, to which Timothy calmly answered that he could not explain it. Later, the investigators asked the man to provide a DNA sample and the clothing he wore that day. Timothy agreed without objections, but when the police examined his clothing, they found stains of unknown origin in red on his jeans and jacket. They asked Timothy how he could explain this. The man assured that it was only dirt, but the investigators suspected something else. Nevertheless, they could not detain him until the results of the DNA test were available. The examination was a priority, but it took several days for the specialist to conduct the necessary analyses. When the pathologist completed the examination of the evidence, he confirmed the original assumptions about the events of that day and immediately sent the obtained biological samples to the laboratory for further analysis. Shortly after the mysterious incident, the police received an anonymous message about a suspicious young man who was seen the day before the game. The description of his car and the license plates given in the letter made it possible to quickly identify the owner, a student who lived 30 minutes' drive from Scottsville. A police visit to the young man confirmed his innocence. He claimed to have worked on the day of the game, which was also confirmed by further evidence. As a result, the student was removed from the list of suspects, and the anonymous sender remained unknown. Possibly it was a failed attempt to discredit someone. Soon after, the police received new information about the unusual behavior of another local resident, a young man who sometimes claimed to have been at the game and sometimes denied it. He also told about girls who were playing hide and seek. The investigators found out that this young man was the son of Timothy Madison. Even more surprising was his behavior a few weeks earlier. He had expressed his disappointment about his father and talked about the possibility of undertaking inappropriate actions. This prompted the police to examine him more closely. When the police came to speak with the boy, his parents had to be present since he was a minor. The mother refused to provide a DNA sample from her son, and as a result, the investigators had no evidence and left empty-handed. In the small town of Scottsville, where everyone knew everyone, the news spread immediately. The Madden family became the topic of conversation in the Gabby case, and various theories about possible participants came up. Some suspected that the problematic older sons could be to blame, others that their father might be covering for them. These rumors were a shock for Gabby's parents, especially for her father, who had known Timothy since school days and promoted the friendship between their families. Both families had a cordial relationship and even sat next to each other at the said game. Immediately after rumors about an unpleasant incident in connection with the Gabby family became known, her 20-year-old eldest son, Mason, began appealing to the local police on social networks to leave his family alone. These actions led to his arrest for threats, during which it emerged that a warrant was already pending against him in another city for a similar case. During questioning, Mason insisted that he had nothing to do with the incident and explained that he was at his cousin's in a neighboring city that evening. He also voluntarily provided a DNA sample for analysis. 6 days after the incident, on the 20th of November, a memorial service took place in Scottsville, to which hundreds of people gathered not only from this city but also from neighboring places. The girl's parents received considerable financial support from the community for organizing this event. Meanwhile, the laboratory had completed the DNA analysis and compared it with the samples found at the scene of the incident. The results showed that the DNA corresponded to Timothy Madden. Furthermore, the stains on his clothing now had a logical explanation, although he had first claimed it was only dirt. When this discovery became known, the investigators visited the ceremony to discreetly inform the parents about the results of the investigation. At the same time, another group of police officers made their way to Timothy's house to arrest him. During his transfer from the police station, Timothy protested his innocence before the assembled journalists and claimed that the stains on his clothing were merely due to his hand accidentally getting caught on a fence in his own garden. After confirmation of the DNA match, the case was brought to court, where the prosecution intended to demand the highest possible penalty. During preparations for the trial, Timothy's lawyer insisted on his client's innocence and questioned the origin of the crucial evidence. He claimed that Timothy was in the stadium at the time of the incident and was filming a sporting event. The lawyer also pointed out that the evidence was found in water while Timothy's clothing remained dry. After his return home, his mother confirmed that her son arrived in clean clothing, behaved calmly, and aroused no suspicion. However, the prosecution refuted these arguments by emphasizing that Timothy's DNA was found on the evidence, which in their opinion left no doubt about his involvement in the case. The police suspected that Timothy could leave the stadium during the event and accidentally met Gabby, who was looking for her friends. Since the girl knew Timothy, she might have asked him where her friends had gone, and Timothy offered her to go with him. According to the investigators, in the absence of the public, the incident could have happened, after which Timothy returned to the stadium. The waiting time until the beginning of the trial was long and caused great disappointment for Gabby's family. After long negotiations, the prosecution offered in the year 2019 to replace the highest penalty with life imprisonment in exchange for a confession of guilt from Timothy. Gabby's family, tired of the endless waiting time for the trial, agreed to this compromise to ease the burden of constant court sessions and reliving difficult moments of the past. Timothy, still convinced of his innocence, ultimately agreed to the conditions without revealing details of the incident. This result did not satisfy Gabby's relatives, who wanted a full confession from the perpetrator. During a court hearing, the girl's father lost his composure and began loudly criticizing Timothy, whereupon the defendant's relatives got into a verbal exchange with Gabby's family. The judge had to temporarily interrupt the proceedings and separate the arguing parties. Ultimately, Timothy was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of early release and transferred to a maximum security prison. It should be noted that 1 year after the incident, in the year 2016, another incident in connection with Timothy Madden occurred. A boy from a neighboring state recognized Timothy in a television report about the event. A few years earlier, he and a friend were near a shopping center in a parking lot when a stranger approached them. This person tried to persuade the boys to take a ride with him, but they found this strange and hurried to leave. Afterwards, a relative of the friend even filed a report with the police. The second boy who had seen the report claimed that it was Timothy Madden. However, the evidence in this case was insufficient, and it was not carried through to the end. Nevertheless, if Timothy actually tried to commit an inappropriate act in another state, this could indicate his inclinations. Possibly he was looking for other opportunities before the incident with Gabby, but unsuccessfully. On that evening, when the girl approached him at the stadium, the man decided to take advantage of the situation.